Hey y'all, welcome back to the Flow and Flourish Podcast. Listen, it is March. That means it's the season for spring and blooming of flowers and growth and all the things that you've been planting and working on. All of that is coming into fruition this month. So can we be excited about that? And the fact that time is about to spring forward, because I'm loving each and every extra minute and seconds that are added to the day full of sunshine, because that seasonal depression really is a thing, especially in the Midwest. Like, ooh, baby, let me just say that. If this is your very first time listening to the Flow and Flourish podcast, then I want to thank you for tuning in and welcome you to the sister friend community of like-hearted and like-minded women, where we talk openly and honestly about all of the things that come up as you are looking to balance the worlds of work and home. I am your capacity coach, Nicole Roan, and I take pride in being your guide on this journey. Now, I will say you should go back and listen to the first 5 or so episodes, because that is where I really lay out the foundation for which this podcast is grounded in. And it's on what I like to call 5 pillars of flow. So we have heart flow, work flow, health flow, cash flow, and faith flow. All of the ladies in this tribe believe that each and every one of those pillars really do work together to help you become the best version of yourself, and really to help you increase your capacity for sustainable success. And when you have capacity, you have the ability to show up in excellence, wearing all the hats that you wear, juggling all of those different priorities. And it allows you to really flow effortlessly so that you can flourish tremendously. So if you have not subscribed yet, hit pause, do that, go listen to the first couple of episodes, and then come right back, because this episode today is packed full of information. And before I jump into it, I do want to let you know that this episode is being brought to you by the Balance Booster, which is a 60-minute individual intensive coaching session where I spend focused and dedicated time helping you to increase your capacity in one of those 5 areas of flow. This session in particular is really set up to help you organize your thoughts, to get clarity on your priorities, identify what's blocking your flow, and help you start to design a life that meets your terms. So if you've been wondering how to work with me individually, head on over to my website at NicoleRoan.com and set up your free discovery call so that we can talk about whether or not the Balance Booster is something that will be beneficial to you. Okay, let's get on into this episode. In honor of Women's History Month, I really felt it on my heart and in my spirit to talk to you guys a little bit today, first and foremost, about embracing the history that you're making. And I also wanted to just give you a quick rundown on what you can expect from the podcast over the course of this month. So not only are we going to be talking about embracing the history that you're making, literally all month long, I'm going to be interviewing and speaking with women that I believe are making history. And the history that they're making is going to be aligned to each one of those different pillars. So I want to make sure that you stay tuned. Know that that's what's happening throughout this month. Phenomenal women that you don't want to miss. But as for today, I believe that we, and I do include myself in that, really need to understand that we are making history. Not just that we're part of history, but we're making history. And I say that because many of us, as you've heard me say before, are the one. Yeah, I'm doing the air quotes. The one in our families that are the trailblazers, the first to go to college, the first to buy a house, the first to get married. We are accomplishing all of these different firsts, and that's history. And in doing that, we're also breaking generational trauma and creating a new story for the future women, as well as the women that are around us. I know that you probably have a sister, auntie, mama, grandmama, cousin, friend, adopted cousin, somebody who you don't even know is watching you. And the history that you are making by showing up for yourself each and every day is giving them the courage to do so. It's giving them the courage to say, you know what? If she can do it, I can do it. And too often, we don't acknowledge the fact that we're history makers. We don't talk about or even accept the fact that we put out all this greatness in the world. And so after today's episode, my hope and my goal is that you'll be able to do that. And so I want to start and talk a little bit about what Women's History Month is, kind of how it came into play. And then I'm going to give you I'm giving y'all homework. That's what I'm doing. Never have I ever in the history of doing this podcast given you homework. But listen, today you will have some homework. So let's talk about the history of women's history. Women's History Month actually started as Women's History Week back in, I believe, 1981. And it was created really to start celebrating and recognizing the contributions that women have made, specifically in the U.S., and to highlight those different achievements that women have contributed to American history in all kind of fields. What I didn't know is that it took about 5 or so years for Congress to really work with the president and legislature to declare Women's History Month an actual month. And so as of 1995, that's when the president really started to declare March as Women's History Month. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Bill Clinton was president in 1995. Come through, Mr. Clinton, for doing the right thing and declaring March Women's History Month. We appreciate you. All right. So, speaking of history, I did start to talk a little bit about really embracing the history that you are making. And I believe this is so important because as busy, high functioning, and high achieving women, we are so quick to move on to the next thing that's on our to-do list, that's on our goal list, that's on our priority list, right? And we don't really take the time to bask in our own ambiance, not even for like 60 seconds. I cannot tell you how many times I have not even been finished with a goal or a project or some sort of achievement. And before even hitting that goal, I was already planning on figuring out how to accomplish the next thing. So how many of you do that? Like, be honest with yourself. Just in the last, let's call it 30 days, right? Because we're in a new month. So in the month of February, did you take any time to celebrate any of your accomplishments? Or did you do like most of us and go on to the next? And if the answer to that is, you know what? No, I didn't. It's okay. There's no shade. There's no shame, no judgment, because you literally are not alone. All of the women that I talk to in group coaching and individual coaching, friends, family members, like we're constantly reminding each other that we have to stop and smell our own roses. And my girl Danielle Washington was quick to tell me that a couple of weeks ago. And I needed to hear it though. So thank you, Danielle, if you're listening, for telling me to pause, celebrate the things that I'd accomplished before moving on to the next one. And so I want to make sure that all of you are doing the same thing. Now, in order to do that though, I want to help you put a plan and some actions behind it. So I'm going to give you 4 ways to really embrace the history that you're making. The first one, and this is where the homework comes in. So it's got 4 parts. So if you don't have a pen and paper or you don't have your phone out to take notes, hit pause and go do that. I'll wait. Okay, you ready? So number 1, I want you to create a list of accomplishments and or ways that you are either making history or have made history. And I bet you're going to be so surprised at what you come up with. And I don't care how far back you go. Like for me, one of the things that I don't think many people know, and I'm going way back and I don't care, is when I was in 7th grade, I was like I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure it was either 5 or 7 in the entire state of Wisconsin for math. Like the entire state. That's huge. And at the time, I was living in an area in northern Wisconsin, Ashland, Wisconsin, to be specific, where we were the only African-American family. And many of the teachers had never seen Black people up close. And so many of them didn't think that I could read. They were astonished at how smart I was. And so for me to really get 7th in the entire state, like that was unheard of. That was a history-making moment, and I'm going to embrace that. So I want you to think back as far as you can and write down all of the different things that you are proud of that you've accomplished. List out the ways that you have made history, the ways that you're planning on making history, or ways that you've currently made history. Okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, after you have this nice, long list, and I know it's going to be a long list, because if you go all the way back to 7th grade like I did, sis, I know you have a lot on that list. Once you have that, I really want you to narrow it down to your top 3. And yes, I know that might be hard, but the point is for you to really take some dedicated time and energy and think about the top 3 things that you're most proud of that have either made history or are making history. And part of the reason that I'm asking you to do this is because, again, as women who are knocking things out of the park constantly in our personal lives, in our professional lives, being the superstars behind the scenes, all of these different things, you being able to really toot your own horn gives other women the courage and permission to do the same thing. So honestly, this ain't even about you. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's really helping the rest of us who are still uncomfortable basking in our own ambiance be able to say, you know what, I did that, and to be proud of it instead of just moving on to the next thing. So pick out your top 3, and this is where the hard work comes in. Now that you have these 3, I need you to share one or all 3 on your favorite social media platform and tag me in it. Okay? For those who participate, I have a $25 Amazon gift card that I'm giving away. And I'm doing that because I really want people to participate because it is so important. I'll say it again. You never know who is watching you. And as my wonderful coach Patrice says, what are they watching you do? So once you have those 3, either post one or all 3 and tag me in social media. And I want you to use the hashtag, I am a history maker. Okay? Some of y'all might be rolling your eyes, sucking your teeth. You might even turn off the podcast, and that's okay too. But for those of you who know that you're a history maker and are committed to really making a difference in this world, you have no idea how admitting to the world that you are great and greatness is within you and that you are a blessing to others and that you are a history maker, you have no idea how much that's going to transform the lives of women you don't even know. Okay. Once you've posted and tagged me, I want you to celebrate yourself. Celebrate the fact that you've gone through this exercise. Because if you're like me, it's really, really hard for me to talk about what I've done well. I'm getting in the habit of it because as a capacity coach, that's part of the heart flow, right? Being able to be honest with yourself about what's working, what's not working, and being able to toot your own horn. Because if I'm expecting you guys to do that, I need to be able to do the same thing. So figure out what you can do to celebrate all the things that you've accomplished, the ways that you're making history or that you have made history. Do something to celebrate it. And again, because I'm asking you guys to do that, I'm actually going to go first. So I'm going to share 3 things, or I guess 3 accomplishments or ways that I either have or am making history. Number 1, with this very podcast, not only am I the first person in my family, like immediate family, to start a podcast, your girl has a global podcast. Yes, there are people listening to me and tuning in all over the world, which means I'm making history worldwide. I don't care if it's 1 people, 2 people, 3 people, 1 episode, 6 episodes. There are people all over the world listening to me and tuning in on a regular basis. And because of that, I am almost at 1,000 downloads. And that may not seem like a lot to you, but listen, for me, first and foremost, I was terrified to start this because I wasn't sure who was going to listen or what this was going to grow into. But those of you who listen on a regular basis know that this podcast is my baby. And it is such an honor and a privilege to have you guys take time out of your day to listen to me, to send me DMs, to tag me in social media, and let me know how this is helping you. So I'm making history right there, worldwide, okay? Number 2, I talked about this in my private Facebook community last week, but I was recently interviewed by the local ABC 7 News in Chicago. I'm almost certain that I'm the first one in my family to be on the news for something positive. It's not because somebody died. It's not because of some crime. It's for a good reason. And it's airing actually this week. And it's me really talking about how the pandemic positioned me to leave my corporate job in pursuit of capacity and work-life balance. That is huge. Like, that's a really big deal. And I know all week I've been downplaying it, but as I sit here being transparent with you guys, I'm about to celebrate that because it's huge. And when that episode comes out, I am going to flood your timeline. So be prepared. Okay? And last but not least, I believe the greatest way that I'm making history is because I am changing the conversation around self-care, around prioritizing yourself, around working yourself into the ground. And I'm doing that by sharing my story, my own story of working myself into the ground and almost losing my life because I wasn't practicing self-care. And so I am teaching all of the women around me, all of the women who listen to me, who tune into my lives, who message me. I'm teaching everybody around me that it's okay to, number 1, not be okay. It's okay to ask for and accept help. And then not only is it okay to make yourself the priority, it's necessary. No longer can we walk around putting everybody's needs before our own. No longer can we walk around being distracted by everybody else's problems and using that as a scapegoat to not deal with our own stuff. No longer can we show up with imposter syndrome and work ourselves into the ground, into ICU, because we think that that's the way that we have to do it. I'm changing that conversation, and I'm proud of it, and I'm celebrating that. And so I'll close with this. I want to ask you again, how are you making history? And if you are you embracing it? I want to see you on Facebook and Instagram this week, telling me how you're making history. 1, 2, or 3 ways. If you want to share more, I'm down for that too. Tell me how you're making history. Not only are you going to help other women be able to get comfortable displaying their accomplishments and acknowledging all the good they put into the world, you're also going to qualify for a $25 Amazon gift card. And I know that might not be a whole lot, but listen, Amazon has been my best friend from little shower melts to different books. And y'all know I got about 85 books. I'm reading like 15 books all at the same time right now. Don't judge me. There's all kinds of things. So that's just a little bit more of an incentive for you to participate. Okay? I hope that this episode stirs something up in you and helps you again realize that you are a history maker, because you are, and you should be proud of that. And throughout the rest of this month, I cannot wait to highlight all of these magnificent, awesome, phenomenal, insert any adjective that you want to, women that are also making history. So until next week, I pray that you are healthy, I pray that you are happy, and I pray that you are working on increasing your capacity. I can't wait to talk to you next week and continue to be your capacity coach by helping you create balance between your personal and your professional life without ever having to sacrifice yourself, your family, or what matters most to you. Talk to you soon.